awareness. I'll do it again. And okay, we finished this chapter, and do you want to start chapter 3, or we can do nothing, just start chapter 3? I can't say class over. I would love to, but I can't. But I would like to say that yeah, you can play with your cell phone and do other things on the class, but it's better. It's better that you can focus on the text on the class. Okay. So it doesn't matter if you do anything else, but you better not interrupt me. If you have any problem, just put your hand. I will call you at the right time. Okay? So, and the performance of you on the class will not affect your final examination score. Okay? So, but I respect you guys, and I hope that you respect my work.
Right.
Is that the only words you can say in this Chinese? Because you always say 对.
Still learning.
Still learning.
Yeah.
I know you have Chinese class. Did you have Chinese class?
Yes.
Option. Did you attend Chinese class?
Yeah.
Do you like to learn Chinese?
Yes.
Yes. Chinese is difficult. It's not like English.
For communication, it's important.
So if you on the Chinese class, how you learn that from the vocabulary or from the pronunciation, something like, because in China we have pinyin, right? You start from pinyin. And the characters, all right. You start from characters. The pronunciation of each character is different with English.
We can write a few sentences.
You can write a few sentences
In character.
Characters can't organize a sentence. The sentence can you all right characters. It's not good. That's good. Right. But you got a very good opportunity in here to learn Chinese, right? Because when I study in Australia, actually, yeah, Chinese students always learn English, but the speaking is not very good. We do write, we do have a big vocabulary, but when talking to people in English, Chinese students not quite good at that. When I arrived to Australia, I'm afraid that I can't talk with people. Yes, I'm too afraid, but finally I find there are a lot of Chinese people. So maybe Chinese people around the world. So you can always find a Chinese guy. So you don't have to speak English, and you can survive in Australia very well. yes, it do. Because Australia is also a big immigration country, right? So different people from different countries, that's fine. I don't have to speak English, but I learned the English there. Yes, I didn't, because I work in laboratory, and I have a co-supervisor. My supervisor is Chinese, so we don't have to discuss or talk English. But my co-supervisor is from South America. and we have to speak English. And because I work in lab, the lab staff are all Australian. So it pushed me to speak English. At the very beginning, yes, I have vocabulary, but it is a big step for me to speak with foreigners. At the very beginning, when I talk to a lab staff, for example, I should ask him to work with me with some lab work. And then I need to write on the paper first. And something like I remember how to speak those sentences. And then I go to him and just speak out what I remember in my mind. Yeah, that's the first step.
You also do that.
And maybe 1 week later, I don't have to write those words down, but I have to organize those words in my mind first, and then go to him.
Just 1 week.
Just 1 week. Just 1 week. Because I found at the very beginning, I thought that if the vocabulary is wrong or if the grammar is wrong, they won't understand. But finally, I found they can understand. As long as you speak some words, they even know what you want to do. Just 1 or 2 words. Oh, it's
English.
yeah, it's much easier than I think. So finally, 1 week later, I just organize those words in my mind, and then I can speak with them. And maybe 1 month later, you don't have to organize anything. As long as you see them, then you can talk with them easily.
So you,
Maybe I'm good at learning or something else, but yeah, it's not very difficult as you think. But you need such a surroundings, you need such an environment to talk. Because I have no choice but speak English. So then maybe I made how to say, I speak well. So I think maybe it's the same thing for you. Because in here, maybe you have no supervisor. You have no supervisor in Chinese and speak Chinese to you guys. So learning Chinese is how to say, a little bit difficult, or it's not very quick for you. But you can find someone because all Chinese around you. You can make friends. You can attend some, how to say, they have some activities, I believe, that you can attend to, to have opportunity to speak Chinese. As long as you start speak, it's much easy way for you to learn Chinese.
all of us here can speak a little bit. Especially
You can speak a little bit Chinese. Oh, that's good. That's good.
He can sing in Chinese, he can speak Chinese, and his Chinese characters is to
China.
Since that you all can speak Chinese, then can we have class in Chinese? No?
Not yet.
Not yet.
woman question.
What?
It's not easy.
Okay, sometimes if you guys are ready to have class in Chinese, I'm totally fine with that. If you want to experience one class in Chinese, I'm totally fine. Or sometimes if maybe in the middle of this semester or in the middle of this semester you want to experience one class in Chinese and English, then we can first introduce in Chinese and then I can translate into English for you. Maybe it depends on the progressive. If you learn quick and we have some maybe 1 or 2 spare class, then we can do this. But if we can't finish the textbook with schedule, then I think that it's better not to do this. It takes time, you know.
Well, we can ask this professional.
And you guys do. I know you guys good at singing and dance, right? I think that we should have some punishment if you did bad on your homework. Let's say, yeah, I give scores. I give scores to your homework. And I'm totally fair with this. And if you are the last one, if you didn't do a good performance on your homework, then the punishment is give us a show. It doesn't matter if it's a sing a song or dance or something you think you're good at. Agree?
Okay.
All right, we have a deal.
Yeah, we will do.
Deal.
Good.
Oh, you happy with this? Yeah, I know you definitely do this good. Sing, dance. You guys good at this.
He can dance.
Very good.
Very good.
So why did you say no?
Shy.
No, I think he just want to attract more attention to him. Then we can all focus on him, and then finally, oh, I find that you are very good at dance. It's a strategy. Let's talk about a little bit of chapter 3. Chapter 3 is weight-volume relationship. Weight-volume relationship is simple but important. So weight-volume relationship and also as well as density. Those things you studied when in your high school, maybe middle school, when you study physics. You know that density equals to mass divided volume, right?
Right.
So it is the same thing in this chapter. But we know that soil is quite different. When you study for example, the density of a metal, density of rock, density of plastic, or density of many other metals, the density is always uniform, right? The density is uniform because the stuff, those material is uniform material, but soil is not. As I say, in Wenzhou city, soil is always a clay soil, but if you get some soil in our campus or in the building, in the D block, and to compare the soil you got from B block, it may different. Why? Because soil have 3 phases. The soil have the solid phase and the gas, and also soil have water inside, right? But the solid, we think that the solid part or the soil particle cannot break. So as long as we say particle, it is a very oriented particle of the soil. It's not like aggregates. We say the solid is always cannot be changed. The shape can be changed, but the volume of the solid cannot be changed. And how about gas and water? Gas and water, they exist in the voids of the soil. So they may be surround the soil particles. You know that particle and particle connect together, they form a void, different size of voids, and those gas and water then fill those voids. As long as the voids filled full of water, we call such a soil is saturated, full saturated with water. But if for some of the soil, the void is not only filled with water, but also filled with air or gas. So for such a soil, we call it unsaturated soil. So you see, soil is the density can be changed. It depends on the solid volume. It depends on the water volume. It depends on how much of void is inside. So why we have a chapter studies of weight volume relationship dependently, because it is simple, but it is complex and it is important. And later, a lot calculation is based on the equation we introduced in this chapter. So the learning objective in this chapter is first to define and develop a non-dimensional volume relationship, such as void ratio. The void ratio, void is the void, we said that, between particles, right? And ratio is that the void's volume, how much of the void's volume accounts in the total volume of a soil. This is called void ratio. Porosity. Porosity is the same definition with void ratio. So these two connect together, and they can transform one by one from this one to that one. They have a connection or have a relationship between these two. And the degree of saturation. If the degree of saturation equals to 1, we call it saturated soil, right? That is, the degree of saturation is the water volume divided the void's volume. That is how much of the void filled with water. It is such a definition like this, degree of saturation. So it is a ratio, then it is from 0 to 1. If it equals to 1, that means the void is full of water. It is saturated soil. If the void equals to 0, then that means no water inside of the void. That is a totally dry soil. So the degree saturation range from 0 to 1. From a totally dry soil to an unsaturated soil to saturated soil. This is the degree of saturation. And we will introduce some relationships between degree of saturation and weight and volume and also void. And then the next is define and develop some weight relationship, such as moisture content, unit weight. So in here, the first one, those void ratio, porosity, degree of saturation can always calculate with the ratio between volume. But in here, moisture content, unit weight can be defined with some weight relationship. What is a moisture content? Moisture, that means related to water, right? It is the water mass. For example, you've got 1 kilogram soil. The water mass in 1 kilogram soil divided the solid mass, that is the particle mass of the 1 kilogram soil. This ratio called moisture content. So moisture content is also a ratio, but it can higher than 1. For example, for a 1 kilogram soil, sometimes the water mass in such pound of soil can be higher than the solid mass, can be higher than the mass of the particles. So it can be higher than 1. It's not like degree of saturation. Unit weight, that is the density. That is the weight for a unit volume of soil. It actually is the density. But for soil, we have different density. We have weight density, we have dry density, we have saturated density. So different densities. You need to calculate with different weight in here. And then connect those two together, that is develop some weight relationships in combination with volume relationship. So we introduce the volume relationship first and then weight relationship. And then finally, those relationships can transfer to the other one or two. So actually a combination between these two. This is the objective of the weight volume relationship in chapter 3. And then from next class, we will introduce those relationships. It's easy, but based on such a figure, and we will introduce from next class. And the homework in chapter 2 should be submitted in next Thursday. So you have almost 10 days to work on the homework, chapter 2. And keep in mind, if you if you go to the lowest score, give us a performance. Maybe some of you just don't want to do the homework, only want to give us a performance. And intend to do nothing with the homework, that's fine. Okay.
Good deal.
Become Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson.
Remember, so next Thursday, okay? So we have a long weekend. Yes, from Sunday to next Tuesday. So next Tuesday we have no class. Yeah, Mid-Autumn Festival.
I didn't know.
The Mid-Autumn Festival.
So Sunday to Tuesday, there is no class.
Yeah, class on Sunday.
There is no class.
Sunday, Monday, Tuesday.
Monday we have no.
Hallelujah.
Monday we have no.